Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. So I've got a really interesting duo of young ladies to introduce you tonight, and we're going to talk a little bit about passion and finding your passion, both in your career and what it is that all of us need to do to find our passion in life. So to start with, I'd like each of them to introduce themselves to you and tell you a little bit about what they do. My first guest is Christina J. She is a matchmaker. Christina, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me.
So tell us, how long you've been a matchmaker and what exactly does a matchmaker do?
I've been a matchmaker since 2017, and a matchmaker connects people for love. I introduce people for relationships.
And you do this through primarily meeting people online, or do they get to you through word of mouth or recommendations from prior people, or how?
Both. So referrals through previous clients, or they find my website online, or different media I've done.
Fascinating. And my second guest is Erikka Johnson, and she's got an even more interesting career. She's an aerialist. Erikka, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So tell me, what does an aerialist do?
The aerialist is somebody who makes up stories and goes into the air and does a bunch of weird things and tries to make people excited and uncomfortable and happy.
And how long have you been doing this?
Around 10 years.
10 years. And how did you start?
I stumbled into an aerial studio and became obsessed and just kind of went from there.
Fascinating. Both of you have got really quite interesting jobs. And how did you bump into becoming a matchmaker?
I was actually coaching. I was coaching executives, CEOs, and I found that their biggest problem was their social life. They didn't have time to date. They didn't have a partner, and that's what they wanted most in their life. So it was a natural progression to get into matchmaking from there.
CEOs wanted the thing they wanted most in life was a social life. Like that one would think most CEOs are in love with their work and work all the time, and that's how they become successful. So why is it that they want a social life?
Well, they're at the top of their game now, so now they have the time to relax a little, and include some love in their life.
And is this male CEOs or female CEOs or both?
Both. Yeah, definitely both.
So it's not primarily male CEOs looking for somebody else.
It's both. Both men and females, they both want love. So yeah, definitely.
Unbelievable. And Erikka, tell us a little bit about where you've done your performances.
I've been really lucky to be throughout Canada and the US primarily, but I had the opportunity to start working in Central and South America a couple of years ago, and I'm actually just coming back from Europe. So sort of little bit by little bit, I'm going to lots of different places and able to experience the differences in them.
So we're going to delve into this a little bit more as we go through each one of your stories. But, what is it that you did? How is it that you found your passion? Did you wake up one day and just say, this is what I want to do in life? Or was it a discovery process? Or was it someone suggesting it to you? What is it that decided that you were going to be a matchmaker or an aerialist?
I don't know. I think it's sort of a journey, right? I could never, I wasn't good in the corporate world because I didn't like working for people. So I think more so owning any type of business, being your own boss, and also meeting new and interesting people. Those are all interests that I liked. But again, I think it was sort of a journey. It wasn't something like you wake up one day and say, that's what I want to do. Although I went to a psychic once and they said that I'm going to do that. And they said that way before I was a matchmaker. I'm like, really? I'm like, but how do I do it? So that's the problem. A lot of people want to do a lot of things and they say they want to do it, but they don't actually just go out there and try it out, right? And it's difficult, and you have to have confidence and assurance in yourself to do that. But you have to actually start doing it instead of just talking about it. So yeah.
Erikka, what about you?
I don't think I ever planned to be an aerialist. I was working in a hospital giving cancer care to patients, and aerial jobs started coming up. I started performing more, people started calling, and I really enjoyed it. And at the same time, I realized that a lot of the people I was seeing were were coping with what it was like to face maybe life-altering changes or the end of their lives. And the thing that I noticed in a lot of the people I was seeing is that they had so many things that they didn't do, and none of those things really had anything to do with their corporate jobs or their work. And so for me, I started to feel drawn more to experiences and connections and like understanding stories of different places and being around. And as I felt that, I feel like those opportunities started to open up, and I just kind of answered those calls and started doing that more. I don't think I ever really decided it. It just kind of happened.
Two fascinating stories that we're going to delve into a little bit more detail tonight. A matchmaker and an aerialist. And I think the reason why is I really wanted to share with you how some people find their passion, even if it's pretty different kind of career trajectories that they're following. We're going to take a break for some messages, and we're going to be back in 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I've got two guests tonight. One is an aerialist, and the other one is a matchmaker. And we wanted to chat a little bit about these interesting occupations to delve into, number one, what they do and who they are and what they're all about. But then also, number two, to try to figure out a little bit more and explore how people find their passion in life. And so my first guest is Christina J. She is a matchmaker. And Christina, you've been doing this, you said, for what, 10, 15 years?
Since 2017.
Since 2017,
Yeah.
so about 5 years.
Yeah.
And you were a life coach,
Yeah.
a CEO life coach
Yeah.
before that. And how
Yes.
long were you doing that?
For like a decade.
A decade,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And just if people want to contact you, is there a website that they should go to?
Yeah, preferredmatch.ca.
Preferredmatch.ca. So you were coaching executives,
Right.
and you found out, as you said, that a lot of them were frustrated,
Yes.
and that they didn't have matches,
Mhm.
and they wanted to have a social life. And you said that it was sort of a journey, even though a psychic had told you that this is something you should do.
Mhm.
So tell me about the journey. Did you do one matchmake first of all, and then another, or how did you go from being a coach to a matchmaker? Was this
Mhm.
one day it was a coach, the next day it was a matchmaker, or did you go over time? How did that switch take place? Did you talk to people? Did you explore it? Did you go to school for matchmaking? What does one do to
Right.
change from being a coach to a matchmaker?
That's a good question because looking back, it's a blur, right? I think you have to have a good network of people, which I already did. At the beginning, you sort of just have to wing it, right? What do they say? Like fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it,
Right,
yep.
right. And I reached out to other matchmakers to collaborate with them. Obviously at first they're like, who are you? Like, where'd you come from? Like, there's a little bit of, I don't want to say animosity, but they're curious.
They don't want the competition.
Yeah, true. Yeah, they don't want the competition. We're all friendly with one another now because they know me, right?
But you probably also had a connection with a market that they may not have had, the CEO market, because of your coaching business.
Right. That's true too. Yeah, exactly. You have to have a good network of people. If you don't, then obviously that it's going to be pretty difficult if you don't know anybody. So yeah, it was just like, I guess, a natural transition. Yeah.
And did this take 6 months or a year or what?
I would say like a good year to get some traction.
And as you're starting to decide you want to be a matchmaker and start this business in matchmaking, did people say you're crazy and why are you doing it? Or did people encourage you?
No, people, you know how people are. People are usually negative. They probably, want to hold you back as to what you really want to do. So for sure, definitely, I had people just be like, "Oh, what? Like that's weird. That's crazy. This and that," and not much.
So if you went to business school, they'd say you got to write a business plan. You got to do a test market. You've got to,
I went to business school. Like I have my business degree, but I mean.
So did you do a business plan?
No.
Did you do a test market?
No, much of business school is a waste of time. I don't really use anything I learned. It's more street smarts, I would say. I think that I learn most things from working as opposed to like being in school and just talking about it. Those are two different things.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about matchmaking then.
Right.
We've talked about how you became a matchmaker, and before that you were a life coach, which is interesting. So if you're trying to match people, do you try to match people that are opposite, or do you try to match people that are similar? And what are the different sort of characteristics that you try to investigate about people when you think about making a match?
Well, really, it's about what they want. It's not about what I want. And a lot of the times, people who have the same similar interests, similar lifestyle, they're going to get along together. But we were talking about before how a male CEO may want someone with an opposite lifestyle that will accommodate him more. That's true. But also, you may meet someone that wants to be a power couple together, and they want to, maybe meet another CEO. So it depends on the person.
But if they're alone,
right,
and they're not currently matched, do they actually know what they want? Maybe they don't know what they want. Maybe, frankly, the reason why they're alone is they don't really know what it is that they want.
Right. That's true. And then that's what we go through as to their lifestyle. What do they want? Like, do they want kids? Do they not? Things like that.
So do you have to go through like a whole exploration with them?
Yeah.
And how do you do that?
Just asking questions, just an intake session. I mean, like most people know what they want. They're either two stages of life. So either, they haven't been married, they don't have kids yet, they haven't met their life partner yet, and that's what they're coming to matchmaking for. Or the other set of people who are divorced, their kids are grown, they're out of the house, or they're just divorced and they're separated with children or whatnot, and they're looking for their second partner in life. So it's usually one of those two groups of people that come to matchmaking.
Is it different for people that are looking for their first match versus people that are divorced and looking for that second life partner?
Different. How so? What do you mean?
I don't know. Is it different?
Well, I mean, the second stage of life, most people are not looking for kids. So it's not really different. It's just this process is the same. Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit more about the intake interview. What sort of questions does one ask?
I get to know everything about you,
everything.
Yeah, pretty much everything that you want to tell me, like, where you went to school, how did you get into your profession, your lifestyle, what do you actually like doing on your time off? Like, some people love to travel, some people don't. They're more like homebodies. They want to go to the cottage and stuff. They don't want to do like international travel.
And why do you want to know that? Because if I say I went to one school, like a business school, and I want to travel, and how you're going to try to find someone that went to the same school or has a similar education, or what?
I just want to get a feel for you. I want to get like a vibe for you to see like what you're like,
A vibe.
Yeah.
So you think you can read people's vibes, and then 100% you can read people's vibes and figure out what vibe that they can match with.
Yeah, pretty much.
Really?
Yeah.
How does one understand what vibes connect with other vibes?
That's just a gut instinct. I think that's, just from, street smarts, maybe. Yeah.
Really?
Good question.
Well, that's interesting. Okay. So tell me about some of the rules. What about age? What about ethnicity? What about religion? What are your rules in regards to matches with those different characteristics?
There are no rules, Brian. You keep saying these rules. It's like I'm not God. I'm not. I'm just a matchmaker.
But you're trying to determine a vibe. So there's got to be some things that you're looking for. Like so, like a Christian versus a Jew, or a Muslim, or like what do people typically react in regards to differences in religion? What if people say they want to have a mixed race relationship, or they don't want a mixed race relationship, or politics. How do you think about all those things when you're trying to match someone?
Right. Well, that's why we do the intake session, and they let me know what are they comfortable with. That's what it boils down to. Like, do they want Caucasian matches? Do they want matches of different religion, or do they really want to stay in their same religion?
So you'll ask those types of questions about, and will people tell you, I don't want to have anyone outside of X religion or Y race?
Right.
Really? Okay. And is that because people want difference, or because they want similar? So most of the time it's someone, they want the same religion and the same race, or do they want different religion and different race?
It's always different. That's why we're each very unique people, like no one person is the same. Everybody wants something different. So it depends on the person.
Fascinating. Okay. What about some of the rules? And again, you're going to say there's no rules, but what about some of the suggestions that you make for people on first dates? What should people be doing? What should they be wearing? Where should they be going? What should they do, or do you give them rules about not do, like
Mhm,
kisses, holding hands, taking them home, stuff like that?
mhm. You know what? Like I was saying, there's no rules, but I think men should be more chivalrous.
What's chivalrous?
Like a bit old fashioned, be having manners. Like just because you're a CEO does not mean that you have manners, right? So, and you know what? It goes for the ladies too. I hear a lot of like crazy stories, right? That people should check themselves and just have like have some manners when dealing with others. I think people are in this age of apps and social media, they're just so quick to judge someone and
Okay, so give me some description of what male chivalry is.
Opening the door for a lady, taking care of the check, walking down the street and being on the appropriate side of her, things like
Okay,
that.
hold it. That's something that not a lot of people know. What is the appropriate
The
side?
guy should be on the side where the road is.
Why?
Well, like if you get hit, he gets hit first, not the girl. That's yeah.
I thought it was because if you get splashed by a car going by, you catch the splash rather than.
Yeah.
You know how many people don't know that rule?
Probably a lot. Yeah. Probably a lot.
Once a year, I publish the things that I taught my son and daughter.
Okay.
And it's a whole list of things. And the vast majority of people, like they look at it and they go, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. But
Right.
it's about chivalry.
Yeah.
Things like standing up when
Right.
you shake hands.
Right. Yeah.
Do you tell people to do that?
I don't tell people anything. It's just sometimes there's some observations of maybe some things that had happened, but for the most part, people are well mannered. They come to me. So
what about if those are the suggestions you give the men?
Yeah.
What are the suggestions you give the females? Is there a female equivalent of chivalry?
Being well mannered, polite, not being like overly high maintenance for like a first.
Overly high maintenance. So somewhat high maintenance, okay. It can't be overly high maintenance. Is that correct?
Not overly high maintenance for like a first or second date, right?
Oh, so again, you can be overly high maintenance on the third or fourth date.
No. But I've just, sometimes you come across some people that, they want to go to a specific restaurant that on the first day, it's like, what, like relax, like it's just the first date, just, play it by ear.
So wearing a suit or a jacket to the first date, or no, jeans and a t-shirt are okay?
Depends what you're doing, where you're going. A little dressed up, why not? Yeah. And then, like, don't show up in your flip-flops.
No flip-flops?
Yeah, no.
You hear that?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm going on a date.
No, that's true. So, this is interesting. As you've gotten to know people,
Yeah.
because you probably have met thousands of people or
Yeah.
hundreds of people
Yeah,
in your process.
Right.
Do most people know what they're doing and know what they want in life, or do most people not know what they want in life?
Half and half.
Mhm.
I would say some people don't, and then some people are very exact and they know. So again, like all people are different. You get all walks of life, so you never know what you're going to get, right?
And does that change with age, or does it not change with age? There's just as many people in later years that don't know what they really want in life.
Sometimes. Oh yeah. Sometimes later in life they still kind of don't want. And I guess like the older you get, and let's say you've never been married and you don't have kids, the easier it is to enjoy your own company, and maybe you will be less have a less of a tolerance of someone's differences, right?
So people that are never married are sort of set in their ways, you think?
Sometimes it can be.
That's interesting. What about kids?
Mhm.
Is that a big issue when you're matching people?
I wouldn't say an issue, but it's a want.
People want kids?
Yeah, people hire a matchmaker because they want to settle down and have kids. Others they already have kids and they don't. So again, it depends on the person. But yeah, very much.
Does some people not want kids?
Some people, yeah, especially the ones that already have them.
Already have them, and they're older.
Yes.
Why do you think divorce is so high in our society, given what you do?
Mhm.
And if you think that a lot of people know what they want,
Right.
why do you think divorce is so high?
you know what? It's too easy to replace people, these days with social media, with apps. It was created to destruct society. Now it's such a division of people.
Dating apps were created to destroy society.
Pretty much. And social media, all of that, it's the family unit has disassembled due to that. Like you think about the 50s, that never happened. If you really wanted to, meet other people, you could, but it was much more difficult. Now we have like a plethora of choice, but people like the first problem, they run away, right? Like they don't want to stick it out. So it's just too easy to find somebody else.
So that's interesting. If that's your analysis as you deal with some of your clients,
Yeah.
And if they run into some problems in the third or fourth date,
Yeah.
what do you tell them? Do you say run away and I'll introduce you to someone else, or do you give them coaching on how to solve the problem, what to do next?
It depends on the problem. If it's solvable, but if it's something small that they can overlook, then you should continue with that person. But if it's something they found out about them that they really are not too keen on and can't see a future with them, then why continue? So it really depends on what it is.
Now, what's the etiquette of a matchmaker? Will you introduce a client to several different people? If they're starting to date someone a few times, will you still introduce them to other people, or no, you keep them only with the one in an exclusive kind of situation?
I like to go one at a time. I don't like them going all over the place like dating apps. So I like to go one at a time, and then they tell me, if they want to continue seeing that person and continue getting to know them, then they can put a hold on their membership and continue doing that. If they went on a couple days and they're still not sure, then they can be open to maybe meeting the next match. There isn't really anything wrong with that. So I go based on what they prefer.
What a fascinating career you've got. Thank you so much for joining us. Remind us, please, if people want to check out your services,
Okay.
maybe apply to be one of your clients and go through that intake interview, and
Yes.
you ask all those questions.
Right.
How do they connect with you?
On preferredmatch.ca and fill out the men's or women's form along with your photo and all your information.
Why the photo?
Because that's important. I need to see, I need to see everything about you, what you look like, get a feel for you to see if you're a fit for my clients.
Preferredmatch.ca, Christina J. We're going to take a break for some messages, and we're going to come back in just a minute, and we're going to talk to an aerialist. I didn't even know what an aerialist was. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Well, we've just finished a really interesting conversation, at least I have, with Christina J. Of Matchmaker, and spoken a little bit about her passion and how she found her passion and her way, which was sort of just a journey as she went from life coaching, business school, then life coaching, executive coaching, and then into matchmaking. And I now want to introduce you to Erikka, Erikka Johnson, who is an aerialist. I didn't even know what an aerialist was until I went, I guess, to a Cirque du Soleil kind of a thing. And then I met Erikka on social media with some incredibly good photographs, by the way, that you took and you posted that were really quite interesting. Erikka, how did you become an aerialist? And what was your journey decision point? Did you go to a psychic as well that told you that, an aerialist was in your future?
No, actually, I thought I was too old to be an aerialist, and I thought I was too new and all those things, and it happened anyways. I think for me, I just kept doing it, and it's sort of, people started noticing, people started reaching out to me on social media, and I had more opportunities to meet people and more opportunities to perform and check it out, and it just kind of developed its own momentum.
So what were you before you were an aerialist?
I was a registered nurse.
You were a nurse?
Yes.
How does one become an aerialist? Did you just happen upon a gym or a studio or a seminar, or what did you do that, or had you been doing it when you were a teenager or something?
No, I happened upon a studio and I started working in it quite a bit. And then after that, I got picked up by an event company that saw me do an act and wanted to have me join them in galas. And I learned a lot in that opportunity. And I just they just sort of kept coming in. I know, I wish there was some way of explaining how you do it, and I have no idea. I think it just happens.
So is it like a journey, the way it was just described by our other guest?
Yeah, I think the more that I did it, the more I realized that what I was spending my time doing professionally was really interesting, but I had seen as much of it as I was hoping to. And I think I really started to fall in love with traveling, and I started to fall in love with the excitement of doing things I didn't know I would be able to do physically. And all of that kind of came together, and I could feel that I was on this really exciting path, and I just wanted more of it.
So, it's interesting because, I would have thought a nurse would get a lot of satisfaction out of helping people. A performer, often they say that they get energy from the crowd. So is there a difference in the feedback that you get, the energy you get, the positive sort of psychic energy that you got in one career versus the other career?
Oh, yeah. Nursing is a really interesting thing. And I did that for quite a while. I love the interactions and the human connection that we get with other people. And that for me is very similar to what you get in a crowd. Everything in performance art, at least in my style of performance art, is really about creating a story that other people can feel and have an impactful experience with. So I think in nursing, it's a lot of seeing people and seeing the humanity in them in some of their darkest moments. And I think on stage, it's about taking the heaviness in you and the lightness and the funny and the real and the dark and giving it to other people.
The heaviness in you. What do you mean by that?
I think all of us have things that are light and energetic and dark and moody and inside of us. And I think that's the real human experience. I think the idea of focusing on just the positive or just the negative is only like a half of what it means to be a human being.
And you're reasonably fit and slender. Does one have to be very fit and small and thin to be an aerialist, or could I do it?
Yes, you need to have a body, and you need to wish to move it. But a lot of aerial is about connecting to yourself and finding shapes. If you have a body, you have a shape, and you can learn to move that in whatever way feels natural to you. I have worked with people coming back from profound injuries. I've worked with people who finished cancer treatments, who are octogenarians. I've worked with people in all sorts of different walks of life. And I think, yeah. And I think
so you can do it at any age, you think?
Any age, yes. You have to start small. The thing with aerial is if you want to do the biggest, scariest trick, you're going to do aerial for a very short time because you need to be
work it up.
Yeah, you need to be excited about and a little obsessed with like training and conditioning a lot. And I think that's the part where it's definitely not for the people who are like, the next trick.
What kind of training and conditioning do you do?
Well, I work pretty extensively right now. I'm coming out of a program where I was doing 8 hours a day for 30 days in a row of coaching or of training when I was away. My regular is about 5 hours, about 4 to 5 days a week. And I do
of practicing your moves or of conditioning as well.
So I do a combination of conditioning, contortion, hand balancing, and flying.
What is contortion?
Contortion is the opposite of yoga. It's the idea of making our muscles strong enough to put them in flexible positions by being able to lift a strong muscle instead of using something like the floor or a wall or whatever to resist our bodies into movement. So we call it active flexibility. We train it with weights instead of passive flexibility, which oftentimes you train with things like blocks or the floor or that kind of thing.
Really fascinating. So can you do like these strange things that I've seen, Cirque du Soleil people with your legs behind your head and stuff like that?
I do put my legs behind my head. Yes.
And you do that not through yoga type flexibility. You're saying you're doing it through strength.
Yeah.
So you're making your muscles stronger to go behind your head.
Yes. Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I like going to somebody's yoga class every now and then, but for the type of flexibility that we do, especially for injury prevention, it's really important that you can do your flexibility as soon as you're warm, as opposed to needing like an hour to warm up, and that for the body to be safe in flexible positions.
I told you earlier that I went to this really interesting performance in Las Vegas, and they actually sort of did an intro to most of the performers. And I was, I wasn't surprised. It was interesting though, that a lot of the jugglers, their father and their grandfather were a juggler. The aerialist, their mother was in the circus. So a lot of people grew up around those things. You didn't. As you have traveled the world and you've met a lot of other people, did they grow up in those in the circus, in those different performance sort of genres, or did they sort of come to it by chance like you did?
I think there's a few primary schools of circus. A lot of circus used to come from traditional circus families, and that's a little bit more what you're describing. There are contemporary circus schools popping up all over the world now that are training more contemporary styles. I grew up, my grandmother is a ballet dancer with the London Ballet Company in England. My mother danced ballroom, and I grew up as kind of a weird theater kid. So I think that people come to it from a lot of different places. I know in the group that I work with, primarily, a lot of us started in doing acts in the street and then getting pulled into stages and kind of having a little bit of that difference in audience too. I think there's a lot of really different ways to come to stuff like aerial and acrobatics.
I used to be a dance teacher, if you could believe it.
Did you? What did you teach?
I taught disco moves, sort of like swing. I'll have
Ever
to show
yes
you
to
later.
that? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You don't believe me, do you?
No, I do believe you, and I need the demo.
We'll think about that later. Actually, my favorite was the French twist, which is probably close to being in the circus type. It's unbelievable.
That feels true.
So I asked Christina this question. Did people question you as you were making that decision? Did they say, you're crazy, you're a registered nurse, you can get married, you can have kids, you can pay down a mortgage if you're a registered nurse, what are you going to do as an aerialist? Did people debate you and argue and try to take you away from your dream? And if so, how'd you combat that? How did you find your dream? How'd you stay persistent in that regard?
Yes, people definitely thought I was crazy, and definitely still do. I got a lot of, you'll lose your seniority, you won't have your pension, all this stuff. You don't need seniority if you are on a plane all the time. So that is something that I discovered. And I still dabble in nursing. I work really, really casually in a brain injury program, which is really nice way of kind of keeping myself connected to the human part that I loved about it, while still giving me the freedom to do whatever I want. But yeah, I think a lot of people try to give you guidance from what feels natural to them. And a lot of people live in a headspace where they feel like security brings them peace. And in some people that's true. And in a lot of people, that's not the case. For me, I think feeling really secure and feeling like I know everything that's going to happen is not comforting to me. It gives me anxiety. I like newness.
Security gives you anxiety.
A little bit, yeah. Because I feel like, oh, okay, it's like the same story again and again. I want to see new stories.
You get bored.
Yeah. I mean, I get bored, and I think
Christina would not like you as a potential matchmaker. She's going, oh my God, she's not going to survive any one of the matches.
Yes, I am from mountaintop to mountaintop. But I mean, I think that's a personality style too, right? Sometimes, I know for a lot of people, they want to feel safe and secure and that kind of thing. But for me, I kind of just want to consume life and enjoy it and see everything that there is to see. And and I feel alive when I do that, and I feel happy.
You want to consume life.
Yeah.
You want to consume life. I don't think I've ever heard that description before. There's this line that people often quote about the Buddha said that the one thing that is most important in life is time, because it goes away, and you can never get it back. That's not an exact quote, but it's a paraphrase. And what you're saying is consume, and so therefore you're like taking your time and making the most of it every second you've got.
Yeah. I mean, I think all we really have are our experiences and our connections in life. And I love that. I want to experience a lot of things, and I want to have really profound connections with the people I care about. And somehow those things go together in my life. And yeah, that's kind of my only focus. I'm not super focused on having a plan, or this is exactly what I want to do, or I choose opportunities that feel really natural to me, that feel like they're going to challenge me. And that leads me to whatever the next thing is. But yeah.
Fascinating. If people want to check you out, do you have a schedule? I know you don't like to schedule or plan yourself, but have you got some events coming up that you can tell people about, and where they are, and or where they could follow you on social media so they could find you and come to one of your events?
Yes. Right now, there's a lot of private events. That's primarily where most of my business comes from, but I will be doing street shows in all of Ontario throughout June, July, August, and September, everywhere from Hamilton and Stony Creek in the next few weeks, as well as Niagara Falls, Toronto. I'm going up as far as Belleville and down as far as Windsor. So
fantastic. And where in Toronto are you performing?
I'm performing primarily at private events in Toronto.
Okay. So we're not gonna be able to see you there
No.
unless we're lucky enough to get invited to the event.
Maybe, yes.
Okay. And what's the website or social media that we can check you out at?
You can find me at A Tangle of Limbs.
A Tangle of Limbs.
That's me.
A Tangle of Limbs. That's pretty good.
On Instagram. I don't do any other social media. And I do have a website. It's starlightaerialcompany.ca.
Starlight Aerial Company.
Yes.
Okay, I got to ask you one more question.
Okay.
So I interviewed, I think, your photographer, and the shots that he had done were risque. They were boudoir type shots, glamour shots. And then he did some shots of you performing that were spectacular. They were probably a little bit sexy. How did you feel about doing those shots?
Oof. For me, like, nudity and sexuality is just one more part of being a human being. I don't feel like it's inappropriate. I don't feel shy about my body being exposed. I'm not a super done up person in my regular life. I'm kind of a bit more quiet and natural and that kind of stuff. So when I'm on stage and I'm in a costume, whether it's my natural body or anything else, it's just a costume that I'm using in my work. So I don't have super strong feelings either way about it, I guess.
You seem incredibly self-assured and confident. Where does that come from? Do you think that's from your parents, from your upbringing, from something that you went through in life? Where does confidence and self-assuredness come from?
I think it comes from being honest with yourself and the lessons that you learn in your life. I've learned a lot of lessons like everybody in my life, and they taught me to be a bit more humble in my life, and that led me to feeling a lot more confident and accepting who I am and wanting to lean into that.
Erikka Johnson, an aerialist. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to take a break for some final messages and come back with some concluding comments from both Christina J. and Erikka Johnson, talking a little bit more about how you figure out what your passion is in life, particularly when it's into frankly, a little bit different career than a lot of people might be involved in. And what do you do to deal with the people that challenge you? Stay with us. We're going to be back in just 2 minutes. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I've had a really fun time tonight chatting with Erikka Johnson, an Aerialist, and Christina J, a matchmaker. And we've delved into both of their careers and some of the things that makes it interesting. But one of the reasons why I really wanted to chat with them tonight is, try to figure out how people figure out what their passion is. And it's interesting because Christina told us that she went to a psychic, and the psychic told her that this was something she was going to do before she actually even realized that she was going to do it. But, maybe both of you could just tell me a little bit more about not only just yourself, clearly yourself, number one, but other people that you've met in interesting careers, because undoubtedly, Erikka, you've met jugglers and people on acrobats and other things. And other performers that you've met. And, Christina, with your interviews, you've met tons and tons of people. How do people figure out what is their passion, what they want to do in life? Is it something that is a journey? Is it something that is a psychic has to tell you? Is it something that you stumble upon? Is it something that, your family was in it and you got to grow up? How do you figure out what's your passion? The reason why I'm asking you is I've interviewed over 1,000 people with my TV show and my radio show. And some people know exactly what they want to do. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I've been surprised at how many people get stuck in things that, whether it's marriages, frankly, as we were talking earlier, or in careers that don't really satisfy them, that don't connect up with who they really are. And they just sort of put up with it and they're unsatisfied. So, Erikka, let's start with you. Erikka, what do you think it is that people do to find their passion?
I don't know what other people do to find their passion, but a lot of the people that I've met kind of lean into whatever's the weirdest about them and whatever they're interested in doing every day. And sometimes that's not what society expects. And I think there's a lot of pressure on people to do the next check thing on the list. But I think the happiest people I know are people who are just like, I really love making tiny figurines of mice. And you're like, okay, that's cool. And they're off doing it, and they're at conventions, on the airplanes, living their lives. And I'm kind of like that. I like to tell stories and lean into what's weird and unusual about me. And a lot of the people that I know are kind of a bit more like that.
So the weirdest thing about you, that's no, but that's interesting because, a lot of people would say that you need to be unique in life if you're going to be successful. You got to figure out your unique selling proposition. Go back to your business school, the USP, the unique selling proposition. Mm-hmm. So if you have something that is unique, that gets you paid for something, then and gives you satisfaction, then maybe that is the thing. Because if it's unique, then it's something that not everyone else is going to do. And if there's a whole million accountants, maybe that's not something that is going to satisfy you long term. So, Christina, what do you think, based on all those people you've done those intake interviews with that we talked about, and the people that have had careers that have been successful and or marriages that have been successful?
Right. How
do you figure out what you want in life?
Well, a lot of the times they're not where they want to be at life, and that's why they hire me. Right. So
they need to hire you to figure out what they're going to do in life.
Yeah. Or they're not happy anymore in their marriage. So they get a divorce and they're looking for someone new. So a lot of them are not happy. Right. That's why they come to me. And as far as career wise, well,
that's interesting. Yeah. Do you think therefore people need a coach or a psychic or a dating coach or a matchmaker to figure out what they want because they can't do it on their own?
I think people need guidance 100%, or someone to bounce ideas off of, or their feelings, or they're unsure about something. Definitely, I think the most successful people definitely have a coach 100%, they need that support network, for that confidence, because even the CEO, very type A personality, they still don't have all that confidence as you would imagine, they need that push from a coach. So definitely, yeah, that tremendously helps.
Well, this is fascinating. I wanted to chat a little bit about this because I've got a concept that I've done a little bit of research in it's a Japanese cultural concept, a millennium old, called Ikigai. I'm not sure if either of you have heard about it, but Ikigai is analyzing sort of 4 concentric circles and trying to figure out, number 1, what you're good at, number 2, what you like, Number 3, what the world needs more of. And number 4, what you can actually get paid for. And the reason why those 4, it's kind of interesting. So what you're good at, I was really good at math, and I tried accounting, and I decided I didn't like it. So it didn't sort of work. So I knew I was good at it, and I could have made a good actuary. I could have made a good accountant, but I didn't love it. And so therefore the second is really important about whether you actually like it. Because to be, one is a vocation, which is what you're good at, but what you like is sort of your passion, and thinking through what your passion is, and what you like and what you can do for the rest of your life is key. But then this idea of what the world needs more of. And I actually, in addition to my dancing, I know you're going to find this really shocking. I was the lead singer of a punk rock band.
I feel very good about that.
Wow.
And it was, but I wasn't very good at it.
Oh.
And the world didn't need any more bad punk rock singers. Okay. So, if the world doesn't need any more of that, that sort of eliminates it. And then the last one is, can you get paid for it? And so, even great artists, and the 3 of us met a very good artist tonight. Even artists need to be sustainable. They need to either have someone pay for them, or they need a benefactor to support them. They need somehow to make some money, because if you don't get some money from somewhere, you can't live. And so therefore, can you get paid for it? So the world needs more of that, and you can get paid for it. And I actually think that that's an interesting thing. And I think that both of you have found something that you're good at, something that you like, and so you're passionate about it, and you have found something that you can get paid for, and therefore the world needs more of people like you. And so I think that you have found your Ikigai. And I think a lot of people just sort of fall into what they're good at, that first job, and or some people do what they like, and then they find out that they're poor and aren't satisfied because they're doing what they like, and it may be their passion, but you can't make any more money at it. And I know people like that as well, and they're happy that they're doing it, but they're very dissatisfied that they're not sustainable, and they have to give it up after a while. And I've met some musicians that, for an example, have to do real estate on the side or something, that because even though the one thing is their passion, they got to make ends meet with something else. So I think that listen to Erikka, listen to Christina and their suggestions. I love what Erikka said about short life and live life to its fullest. What did you say? You consume life. You consume life. I love that line. That's a great line. And Christina, who thinks that even CEOs, people that are very happy in their business career, need to find someone to make their life more complete. And so I think if you find that person in life that Christina is going to introduce you to make your life complete, and you consume life the way that Erikka talks about it, and then you listen to my suggestions on Ikigai, you might actually be pretty happy in life. Anyway, that's the show for tonight. Erikka Johnson, Christina J, thank you so much for joining me. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday on 9:60 a.m. at 6 p.m. You can stream me online at www.saga960am.ca. All my video casts are on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And all my podcasts are on Apple, Audible, and Speakeasy Podcasts. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. Good night, everybody.